Hey everyone, it's Mickey and welcome to Mickey's Madhouse. Today I'll be reviewing The Dead Pit from 1989. The movie is about a girl who has amnesia and goes to a psychiatric hospital to try to regain her memories and find out what happened to her. Um, so the movie starts with one of the doctors, Dr. Ramsey, who is doing some really sick experiments on some of the people. Um, and the other doctor, Dr. Swan, he finds the building that he's doing these experiments in, because there's a few buildings on this property. It's a big property, so there's a few buildings there. Um, so he finds him, finds out what he's doing, and he um, he kills him and seals him up in this building. Now, the reason why they call it the Dead Pit is because there is like a little pit where he puts the bodies that he experimented on. So, um, you know, he so with calling it the Dead Pit, not only the actual pit, but this building, when, Dr. Swan kills him, then he seals up the building so that, again, also um, calls back to the dead pit. That is his dead pit, his grave. And a grave can be a pit because a pit, like, something that kind of like a hole. So, and I am doing this on Friday the 13th. So, yes. Anyway, so, we jump to sometime later, and we meet a girl named Jane Doe who um, has has amnesia from whatever happened to her. She meets with Dr. Swan, and she insists that it's not amnesia, that her memories were taken from her. So, after that, we go into the commentary. That's a room where the patients can get together and watch TV, in this case, smoke, um, not have to stay in the room all the time, or be in a group. I've been in some psychiatric hospitals, and it's interesting looking, because this was in the 80s, and um, I've been in ones from the early 90s, but of course, depending on um, where it is, I do wonder sometimes when I see stuff. I know it's a movie, or a TV series, but with, sometimes I wonder if certain places in certain states, of course, too, certain countries as well, that, you know, if that's how they did things. It makes you wonder sometimes, but anyway. So, um, in the commentary, I can't say that right. Anyway, we meet one of the nurses, Nurse Robbins, who was very nice and very, very friendly with the patients, treats them like people. That's something I've noticed sometimes, that you have some people in the mental health industry who, sometimes you have to do this with people, but other times it's like, you know, so they don't treat them like a person, so that makes them feel less, and it can irritate them. So yeah, um, so But Nurse Robbins treats them um, like people. So the patient that she's talking to, his name is Chris Myers. And it's funny, I know I'm doing this on Friday the 13th, and there's two things. One of them, it's the camel that's going around in the office saying, "Hey, yo, Mike, 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 guess what day it is?" There is a meme where Jason's walking around and Jason is in an office building, and Michael Myers is behind the cubicle, and he says, "Hey, Mike, guess what day it is?" And then, of course, there's Kane Hodder, who has played Jason Voorhees the most. In a skit, he plays Michael Myers. It's a spoof on the first Halloween, where Dr. Loomis is saying somebody taught Michael how to drive, so it's kind of going on that. Boy, that'd be interesting. But so yeah, but that's another funny one. I'll post those below in the description. But so yeah, they're talking, and of course, one of the more kind of like nurse rap shit from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Her name is Nurse Kiger. Despicable, very mean nurse. They she's bossing Nurse Robbins around, and so the Jane Doe and Chris Myers start talking, and we find out the reason why he's in there is because in the military he was he worked with explosives, so he got a little bit too overzealous. But I mean, there are a lot of people. It's like people put down people that have been in jail, prison, mental, and certain things. Mistakes happen. Sometimes, you aren't guilty of what you're accused of. The reason why you're in a certain place is not because, you're crazy, but abuse done to you, certain things done to you, that's put you in a state where you need help. And, and sometimes you have to resort to methods that, is committing a crime. And I'm not somebody to put someone down for that, because I've been out of jail, and I mean, mental health facilities, and we've all have our mistakes, and so it's not nice to do that to people. So he even the Jane Doe says, "Well, you don't seem crazy." So yeah. And then we meet another patient named Bud Higgins, who is asked Myers for a cigarette. He's like really shaky and just needs to cool down. So around this time, there's an earthquake that happens, and this kind of awakens Dr. Ramsey from his dead pit that he sealed up in his tomb, his crypt. I like that, his crypt. I always thought crypts, I always seen those, and I'm like, of course, the thought of being, it's nice and cold, I often wonder, with my health, I can sometimes get overheated, and I'm just, it's like, oh, I need cold. So I kind of wonder, you get in that, feeling like that, being in the, autopsy room, in the, freezer part where they have to preserve the body. Oh gosh, that must feel nice sometimes. I once walked into there's a liquor store not far from where I live, and uh, they have this big walk-in fridge, and it is cold. It is perfect. So it's like on a hot day, or if you just got done working out or whatever. Oh, I can see people like, can I go in the freezer just for a second? Thank you. And go in there. Oh, I'm so nice now. So anyway, but the crypt, it's not like it's going to be hot in there. So just the stone, the feel of that, the coldness. So anyway, on that, that awakens Dr. Ramsey, and the Jane Doe starts to see him around. Now, during this time, she sees him and asks about that, but Bud and Chris don't see him, and see another patient who, I don't know if she used to be a nun or what, but her name is Sister Claire, and she plays a big part in this. That you might think, well, she's crazy. Well, maybe not. So, of course, then, they're like talking about that and stuff. And so later that night, now, of course, a lot of 80s stuff, the more B horror movies, to me, I love that stuff. It's not, it's great, but there, for certain people, there is one nude scene in this, and, it's nice. So, the Jane Doe is dreaming that she's has her hands tied up above her head, and the Nurse Kiger is blowing her with water. Now, in most of the movie, you see her in a white, like a white tank top, not a thong, but the sides go up to her waist. So yeah, it's nice if you like that. So she dreams that, and of course, we have our first sighting of Dr. Ramsey, who takes Nurse Robbins, and we don't see her for the rest of the movie. So from there, the Jane Doe, through her meetings with Dr. Swan, starts to think of the memories that she has, and one of them is being a kid and being on a playground, thinking, remembering it. Now, it's not a jungle gym that she's on. It's kind of like a round one, but it's not the round one with all the bars, different bars on it. It's just, the round with the, things you hold on to and go across. So, and it's a good memory, but then it starts to go bad, and remembering stuff about her mom. And so, throughout that time, Bud starts to, lose it and attacks an orderly, and thankfully Chris is able to talk him down, but they put him in the rubber room, that's a padded room, those are real too. And I knew one, it was part of a school, but also a group home. So, but they had a room where if you did act up, they would put you in there and you couldn't fall asleep or anything. And I have seen kids when I was a kid, because of the medicine they took, and I don't believe unless it's an as needed pill, I don't believe you have to take something at a certain time of day to work properly, because something's going to work properly. It doesn't matter when you take it, because it's supposed to change how things are. So, beginning of the day at school, I remember seeing kids fall asleep at the beginning of school because of the meds they were taking, and just ugh, crazy. So, um, Bud's in this room, and we see Dr. Ramsey, you know, take him, and we don't see him for the rest of the movie. And then throughout, Jane Doe starts to sense there's something wrong, so she asks for Chris's help, and they have kind of a little falling out, but it's not long, and they're able to come back together and like, look, there is seriously something going on. So, but around this time as well, we have another section with Dr. Swan, and she remembers, like she said, that someone stole her memories. So we get a flashback to that, to something happening with her being on a, like an operating table, and the person that was operating on her, she said he smelled like death, like it was horrible, but didn't remember anything else about it. So now, this point, she starts to become possessed by something. Starts, her eyes turn green, and like, you know, starts, you know, really weird. So, of course, Dr. Swan's freaked out by this, kind of remembering, you know, what Dr. Ramsey did. So, he's like, this is over. I don't know what you're trying to do, but, you know, sends her away, and then, you know, tells, you know, hey, I need to take the rest of the day off. And he doesn't leave the, you know, grounds, but he stays in his office and pours a drink. After something like that, I can understand that. So, you know, the Jane Doe now throughout this time keeps hearing the name Sarah. So, kind of wonder, why am I hearing that name? So with that, and then with her and Chris coming together, they start to work. You know, they are able to come together and find out what is going on. And of course, it is revealed that yes, Dr. Ramsey is back. And, well, apart from doing the experiments, he was also doing some evil occult activities. So, part of the reason why he was able to come back. But, and I love that they didn't have this at the end of the movie, but it was the middle of the movie, that the patients, or, well, not the people that he had killed and did these experiments on, they come back as zombies. So, another Dead Pit kind of reference that, you know, I mean, like a pit is not all the time is it for one, you know, thing. So, a pit being, you know, a group in a sense. So, there's another reference, to, you know, to a pit. And there's zombies, and zombies are The Walking Dead, not, yeah, I know, the TV series and comic book. So, yeah. So, yeah. So, and that's another reference to that. So, they come back, and then they start to attack, you know, the staff and patients, and we see that Sister Claire, now during this time throughout the movie, certain things happen, and she starts to like throw water on something and start to pray and, you know, bless it and stuff. And we see her do this with one of the zombies, and the zombie, I love this effect. It dissolves, and it's like, oh, certain things, it's horror is not always about blood and guts, but I do love seeing very inventive, very creative kills because, certain things they're really neat to see because it's, I like when they don't always do the same thing that they're creative because, I mean, sometimes they take it, it's like ridiculous. Like, you've got to be kidding me. But, you know, there are certain things they do, not only with death, with, the kills, but with, other things as well. Being able to do that. There's a point where it's ridiculous, but then there's a point where it's like, no, that's good. So yeah, and it depends on what it is, but I think with some things there is a line that you need to stay in. So, but yeah, so we learn that, well, maybe she's had some problems, and of course we don't know her backstory. So maybe the real reason that she's there is to stop this, So, because obviously what she was doing worked and it killed this zombie. So, if I can find a clip from it, I'll post it below in the description. But, yeah, it is, Of course, they ask her if she could do more of that. And she's like, well, I'm not doing it, God is. Yeah. You hear that, and, yeah, so anyway. But, you know, we, thankfully, they're able to, we figure out through, with the first memory that she talked about that, and I don't want to give it away. I think you can understand what, and I know it's an older movie, and some people are like, well, it's an old movie, and I might do something to where I do a separate video, spoilers, but, for people that haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it, so, but, I think you understand where it's going, and we see more of the first memory and then understand from the second memory that's what exactly was going on, talking, going back to the first scene in the movie. So, she's able to overcome her fear of heights because of, well, what happened in the first memory. So, it's a great movie. Now, some people will point out that this takes a lot from the first two Hellraiser movies. I'm personally more of a fan of the third Hellraiser. I liked what it did there. The first two, I mean, I like them as a complete movie. I don't know. To me, they seem kind of rushed, both of them, but, so they take elements from that. Of course, there's no nude scenes in there. Certain things, but, yeah. And of course, I love Hellraiser from Lemmy. And the third one, Lemmy versus Pinhead, yeah, I'll take that. So, but, there's a lot of horror movies that did that, I'm not going to get on the whole I'm not going to get on the whole Halloween, Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th ripped that off. No, it didn't. Seriously, it didn't. I mean, John Carpenter didn't even want to make a series with Michael Myers in the Halloween. He wanted it to be like an anthology. So, and same way, well, I don't know about Friday the 13th, but I know Nightmare on Elm Street as well. Wes Craven didn't want to make it into a film series. So, it's studios that are to blame. It's not the people that made it. Blame the studios. And I mean, I like Halloween. I'm sick and tired, and I'm not a fan of remakes. Yes, in the past, past not recent. Although I did like the It remake, I do prefer the miniseries more because I liked how it handled, you know, certain things. So, and I love the actor who plays. Uh, I just sorry I can't. I know it's horrible. I can't think of the names, but his emotion when talking about, and you can say, well, you can understand some kids, and not having those emotions, but just because you're a kid does not mean you don't feel the pain and the grief and you don't cry. And yeah, talking about his brother, you know, the emotion he has. Yeah. It's a lot. So yeah. Um, to me, the what they call requels, you know, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis comes back again as Laurie Strode. It's like, dude, and I, I'm not, the Exorcist believer. I'm not. No, I don't care if it's like The Exorcist 3, and it's like another movie that's coming off of the first Exorcist. I mean, even The Exorcist 2. I, I understand certain things, but dude, certain, I forgetting certain things and doing a requel. No, it's enough. Stop doing it. This is ridiculous. And even, I mean, now with The Exorcist, there's The Exorcist 2, but there's another sequel. Um, the man who Reagan tells that he's going to die up there, there's a movie with him. It's called The Ninth Connection, and it's also based off a book too. But it's like with that and The Exorcist 3, the first Exorcist is a conduit to the things that would happen. Sometimes evil from one source will go into other sources. And just because you remove it from the main source doesn't mean it's going to be removed from the other things that it affected. So, yeah. And, of course, in the movie, he's played by a different actor, but still, it's like even Alien 3. I mean, I would have loved to see Newt take over the series. I love Newt. I thought she was great, but it's like the stuff what they're doing now and everything. It's ridiculous. It's just enough, And talk about Nightmare on Elm Street, and I love the film series. Uh, I I'm not a fan of Nancy. Nancy to me is overrated. I mean, I like Laurie Strode, but I'm more of a fan of Jamie Lloyd than Laurie Strode. So, yeah. Um, you know, to me, Nancy is very overrated. I understand, of course, what happened to her friends and what happened to her family and the other families. And, avenging that, yeah, okay. But to me, Freddy's greatest equal was Alice from Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5. It did. Alice had powers before Kristen gave her her dream powers. When she saw the chalk drawing on the ground outside Freddy's house, before, this was after Kincaid and Joey died, she saw the exact same chalk drawing at the beginning of the movie from Kristen's Nightmare. People would say, well, daydreaming. No, that's not how that works. And being psychic, they do say psychics can have a very overactive imagination. So, Alice had powers before that. And of course, Freddy, with how he was conceived, to think that some of those patients didn't have problems, or not problems, didn't have some kind of psychic gift. So Freddy's gift, could have been natural or maybe unnatural. So, but Alice's hers is real. And you have that good versus evil to where something is pure versus something that's not. Literally in different ways. So, to me, and I don't, talking about doing a Nightmare on Elm Street where it ignores the sequels, only takes place after 1 or even 3, no. And doing that with anything else, no, not doing it, this is stupid. Enough. Do a fan film, not just enough. Seriously. It's fucking ridiculous. Dude, it's fucking ridiculous. So, but taking things, to my point, taking things from different movies, like a lot of movies did, camping horror movies, taking from Friday the 13th and, kind of building on that with different camping horror movies, that was more prevalent than, even, Michael and Freddy. So, but it is a good movie. There's good acting, it's a good story, and hey, you know what? If I can find it on the streaming service, I will post that link below. Also, you can find the IMDb link below. You can find my Twitter X link below, my PayPal link below. If you can, please donate some money. That can help me update my set to make things look better. Can help me out with my life, my health, to improve things. And of course, my Amazon link is below. And if there's anything that you think would be helpful for me to put in my Amazon list, let me know and I can add it. So like this video, subscribe, leave a comment, but be nice. That's all I ask. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later.